Yeah.
Oh, we are live. Okay. We can switch to the other view. Hi everybody. Welcome to this webinar. In today's webinar, as you can see, there's four of us. There's a Mo, who some of you may be familiar with. There's Chintan down there. There's Shamli on the bottom left, and there's me. And so we're going to be today. We're going to be play acting an inquiry session, and so in the background, Aditi, Rashmi, and Yadu are going to be working on the document which we'll be discussing and on questions. So Shamli was a member of a course that we ran in 2019, was a participant in a course that we ran in 2019, and Chintan was a participant in the same course in 2020. The course is called Inquiry and Integration in Education, and it's an online course Think runs starting in May. So this year the course starts mid-May and applications close in about a week. And so today what we're going to do is demonstrate a small part of what the course aims at. Our focus will be on pattern finding, conjecturing, and testing conjectures. Chintan and Shamli are going to be playing the role of students in the session. And we would love for you guys who are watching to play along. Either you can play in your own head, talk to others in the chat, whatever you prefer. So this session will hopefully give you a sense of a few of the things which the course IIE aims at. I'll talk more about the course, and actually more importantly, Chintan and Shamli will talk more about their experience in the course midway through this session after we've gone through a couple of activities. After that, we'll take questions from the audience. Whenever you have any questions starting now, put them in the chat and we'll take them up once we start with questions. Okay, so let's begin. Let's begin with a game. So Mo has, if you know Mo has a very clear sense of things which he likes and things which he dislikes. And everything in the world is something he either likes or dislikes. There's nothing else. Okay. So what we're going to try and do is figure out what sorts of things he likes and what sorts of things he dislikes, and try and figure out some patterns in that. Okay. So let's start Mo, and let's actually get a screen up where we can write things down. Let's start Mo with three things. Mo, do you like kittens? Do you like soap? And do you like chairs?
Kittens I like, soap I dislike.
And chairs?
Chess.
Chairs.
Oh, chairs, okay. No, I don't like chairs.
Chairs. Okay. So you don't like chairs. Okay. No, he doesn't like chairs.
I don't like chairs.
Yeah. Okay. So now Chintan and Shamli, do you have any idea? Can you come up with like a general pattern of the sorts of things which Mo likes and the sorts of things which Mo dislikes?
This is still hard to say since we only have a little bit of data. But maybe he likes animals.
Okay, so Mo likes animals. Okay.
No.
You don't. You're saying you don't like.
Oh, that's the conjecture.
I'm supposed to tell you whether I like them or not, right? Are you asking me?
No, that's her guess on your general pattern. On the general pattern is that Mo likes animals. Okay, so how would we? So now pushing back to you, how would we test whether that works as a pattern to say whether Mo actually likes animals or not? How would you test that?
We could ask more questions, collect more data.
Okay, so what type of data would help you? Chintan, what would you like to ask?
Mo, do you like dogs?
No.
Okay.
So why did you ask that, Chintan?
I was trying to check the conjecture if Mo likes animals or not. So if we have more information about whether he likes animals or dislikes them, I can accept or reject the conjecture.
Okay. So you're saying that so there's two possibilities, right? Mo could have said that he likes dogs. In that case, that could have given you more reason to believe this conjecture, right? And Mo in fact did say that he dislikes dogs. And so what does that tell you about the conjecture?
That it's incorrect.
That's incorrect, right? Okay. So as Shamli said, we have very, very little data at this stage to come up with generalizations. And with these four things, I don't think it's all that, at least I can't think of anything. But so why don't you throw out some more things and we can ask Mo whether he likes them or he dislikes them. Shamli, go ahead.
Do you like a table?
No.
A table. Oh, okay. So Mo doesn't like table.
Okay.
Do you like pizza? Pizza? Do you like pizza?
Pizza.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love pizza.
Okay, so Mo likes pizza. Okay, so we found something else which Mo likes.
Okay.
Okay, Shamli, you want to try another couple?
Let's see. Would you like a room?
What?
A room.
The room that you're in. Your
room. Okay. The room. Yeah. I do.
Okay.
Okay. Do you like Tara?
Bangra.
Tara.
Tara. Do you like Tara?
Oh, don't let her hear it. No, I don't.
Tara is more.
Uh-oh.
Okay, yeah. Sriram in the chat has asked, do you like humans?
No.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So actually, let's give the people in the chat like 30. You don't have to write anything if you don't want to, but can you think of what's a pattern which you can find in this, which allows you to say what Mo likes, or maybe what he dislikes? What are the types of things which Mo likes? What are the types of things which Mo dislikes? We can give you guys like 30 seconds just to think about that. And then we can ask Chintan and Shamli. Okay. So Kalyani is asking, does Mo like books?
Books? Yes.
Okay. So we've asked a lot of different questions here, right? We've asked a lot of different questions of Mo here, right? But why have we asked these particular things, right? When we asked about dogs, Chintan gave very good reasons for asking about dogs, right? He had this conjecture in his mind. Actually, Shamli had the conjecture in her mind, which said that Mo likes animals, right? And Chintan saw dogs as a counterexample to that, right? As a potential counterexample to that. Malti asked a very important question: does Mo like chilies?
I love chilies.
Okay. So why? So you guys, Chintan and Shamli, why did you ask about, say, tables or humans? What was the conjecture in your mind when you were asking these things?
Well, when I said table, I was thinking that a soap dish has 4 legs. Chairs have 4 legs. Dogs have 4 legs. But then kittens have 4 legs too.
Okay. So should be Aditi, why don't you write that down? The conjecture that Mo dislikes things with 4 legs. Is that what you were?
Maybe, but then kittens also have 4 legs. So then I didn't go with that.
Okay. So that's a counterexample.
Yeah.
Right. So if you look at conjecture 2, that's false because kittens have 4 legs, and the kittens are things which something which Mo likes. Right. Chintan, what else?
When I asked pizza, I was trying to think if there's some pattern we can find in terms of what Mo likes to eat and things like he doesn't like anything that he can't eat. So maybe there's
kittens. So
You can eat
kittens.
kittens.
Yeah. Well, there are two things which Mo likes to eat, which could be food in that thing. So Mo, but so this is not necessarily a counterexample, right? So if you say Mo likes food items, right? We don't have any counterexamples to that right now.
Yeah.
Right? This could still be true. Right? How do we because there's nothing which he dislikes, which is a food item. So
Yeah.
and there may be other things which Mo likes, but that doesn't mean that this is false. So
I think to disprove this, we would try to find a food item that he doesn't like.
okay, so name a food item.
Paratha.
Well,
No.
no.
Mo
So
dislikes paratha. Okay, so assuming parathas are food items, that allows us to conclude that that conjecture 3 is also false. Okay, so the people in the chat have gotten quite far in figuring things out, but let me add one more thing into what Mo likes. Aditi, can you add in the letters P, Q, Q, J, Y as a word? And Mo likes that.
Yeah,
Yeah, Mo likes P, Q, Q, J, Y.
absolutely.
Right? Okay. So what does that? What do you have any ideas now after seeing that?
that it doesn't actually have to do with what the thing is. It's more about the word.
Okay, so it's not the content, like the meanings of the things, which I think Jeevan saw earlier. It's potentially what the words are, the letters, right? So what's your conjecture?
That he likes things that have two consecutive letters.
He likes words that have two consecutive letters.
Words.
Okay, so let me suggest one slightly different conjecture. Mo likes things with two of the same letter.
That's a good
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
But then we have Tara, which has two A's.
Okay. So we do have a counterexample to that one. Right?
Also,
Also paratha. Oops. Sorry. Also paratha. So we have a counterexample to those. We have a counterexample to 1, 2, 3, and 5. We don't have a counterexample to 2, and so far all the data that we have matches 2, right? And in fact, we can actually add another thing, that Mo dislikes things which don't have two consecutive letters, right? It's not just Mo likes things which have two consecutive letters, but likes words, at least from the data we have so far, that's perfectly reasonable to conclude. Dislike things without two consecutive same letters or something like that. No, not, and even the first one should be like for consecutive letters, which are the same in both cases. Because all words have at least two consecutive letters, apart from I and So we have these two things, which both of them could be true. They don't contradict each other, right? And these are potential things, and we could test these further, right? We could just add more words to this and look for things which could potentially be counterexamples. But yeah, so this is probably the best that we can do for now, right? Because we don't want to spend too much more time with this. Okay. So let's actually quickly move on to a second thing, which is a second activity, because we were supposed to finish this in 10 minutes. So Tara wanted to put the two statements together with only, and say that Mo likes what was it? What Mo likes things with two same consecutive letters.
And only those. Yeah.
Likes, not just only likes and only likes words that
Yeah.
have two consecutive letters which are the same. And that allows us to put both of these statements into a single statement.
Yeah. I think the only like should be more likes to words with two consecutive letters and only those.
Yeah, we can figure out the phrasing later, but I think people get the sense of what we're talking about. Okay, so let's move on to a second activity, which we were supposed to start 5 minutes ago, but which is, I want you guys, and this is to everybody in the chat as well, repeat after me: blue, green, green, blue, blue, green, green, blue. And just keep doing that at a faster pace. Okay, so blue, green, green, blue, blue, green, green, blue, and keep doing that at a faster pace. Okay?
Maybe Shamli and Chintan can
demonstrate that.
Shamli, you can try then.
Okay.
Yeah.
Blue, green, green, blue, blue, green, green, blue, blue, green, green, blue, blue, green, green, blue. It's pretty hard, pretty fast.
Okay, so Chintan, you want to give it a go?
Yep. Blue, green, green, blue, blue, green, green, blue, blue, green, green, blue, blue, green, green. Okay. So that's tough to say, right? And I want you guys to, if you don't write this yet, but I want you guys to repeat blue, blue, green, green, blue, blue, green, green, blue, blue, green, green, and keep going faster with that. Okay, so Chintan, why don't you start? And everybody in the chat should be doing this. Blue, blue, green, green, 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 blue, blue, green, green. It's easier.
This seems easier. And Shamli, why don't you?
Blue, blue, green, green, blue, blue, green, green, blue, blue, green, green. Yeah, it's much easier.
Much easier. Okay. So now let's get the screen back, and let's just look at these two strings.
I just want to point out that the first one is called a tongue twister.
Yeah, the first one is a tongue twister, right? And the second one doesn't seem to be a tongue twister, right?
So, Chintan and Shamli, did you feel your tongue twisting?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I was saying gleam instead of green and brew.
Clean brew. Yeah. Okay, but if we just look at these things as strings, what is it? It's if you lop off the first blue from the first thing, from the first string, they're exactly the same strings, right? So you're actually saying exactly the same things, because you would continue with the green after that, you could continue with the blue after that, and so on. Even though one was significantly harder than the other to say, you were saying exactly the same things. At least written down, they look exactly the same, right? Why?
So you're saying the same words, but since they're ordered differently, it becomes harder to say it.
But they're not ordered differently, right? Their order is the same. There's just an extra blue at the beginning.
We just start at a different place and pair them up differently.
Okay, so why do you think that even though we're saying the same strings, they one is so much harder than the other to say? Yeah. So Anish has a guess Mo, and I'll let Mo respond to this. He says they're grouped differently.
Can you make it slightly clear? What do you mean group differently? I mean, I think you're on the right track, but I need to know exactly what you mean by that.
Yeah. So if Anish can respond, and Chintan and Shamli, if ever you want to suggest. So what could you mean by they're grouped differently?
I was initially thinking that it's because blue you say it from the front of your mouth and green you say it from the back of your mouth, so it might have something to do with it. But since the order is the same, that wouldn't apply.
Mm-hmm.
So it has something to do with the way our brain takes it. Maybe not the way we say it.
Yeah.
Okay, so Anish says his clarification is that the transitions happen at different points.
Mm-hmm. So can you mark transitions then? Yeah.
Yeah. So are you marking the transitions at where Aditi's marked the transitions? And so given that, so if we okay, so Abhishek says, and we can add that up here. Oops. Some difficulty could be attributed to keeping a gap after the last word in the first string. If you don't keep a gap after blue, then it'll be easier. So your conjecture is that if you don't keep any gap after that blue in the first string, it'll be easier. So we can test that potentially, right? So let's try blue, green, green, blue, blue, green, green, blue, blue, green, blue, blue. That seems to help me, at least. I'm trying to decrease that gap after the first one. It doesn't seem to be. Yeah. So Divyansh has said something similar to what Anish had said, that the words are the same, the order is different. So one thing forms like a 1-2-2-1 pattern, while the other is a simpler 1-1-2-2 pattern. So
they're both the same.
Yeah. So he's pointing to the units that you're speaking are different, right? Even though when you put them one after the other, they may be the same.
So, I mean, everybody is able to notice that there's a difference in the pattern, but how does it affect how we say it? I mean, they are the same words. So what is our brain doing that makes us want to maybe emphasize the next word if there's a break?
Yeah. So there's So Sonnet is saying something about similar to what Chintan just said, that the brain gets confused when the pattern is X, Y, Y, X, as opposed to the alternating pattern X, X, Y, Y, right? So similar thing about like the breaks which you're giving between things, the units which you're speaking seem to have an impact on how things are, how hard it is to say them.
Maybe it's because in the first one, maybe our brain thinks that we're saying 4 words, blue, green, 2 words, and then green, blue, 2 more words. But when we say blue, blue, we think of that as 1 word. And when we say green, green, we think of that as another 1 word. Maybe.
Okay. Yeah. So Anish has responded again, saying that if the same word doesn't reappear in the pattern after an interval, it's easier.
Yeah.
Okay.
There is something that was coming up about the pause. Some of these conjectures have pause, refer to pause, and others don't refer to pause. They only refer to grouping. So can you check if pause is relevant?
So how would you check if pause is relevant? Yeah, actually, Ramesh has said that it doesn't seem hard to say 1-2-2-1, 1-2-2-1,
1-1-2-1,
even though it's hard to say blue, green, green, blue.
But I think 1-2-2-1 is harder than saying 1-1-2-2. It's not that hard.
Oh, okay. So you're saying it's not that it's hard to say, but it's even harder than 1-1-2-2-1, 1-2-2-1. Yeah, okay, fair enough.
It takes more thinking.
Yeah. Okay, so we have two potential directions to go through this. One is to do with pausing, and the other is to do with grouping, right? And Mo's asking, how do we choose between these two? What allows us to choose between these two? Like what? So like if you what we did in the first activity was we had some conjectures, and then we gave some examples which allowed us to choose between these conjectures. right? So what is something you can say, some set of things you can say or do, or something you can carry out, which allows you to choose between the grouping, the set of conjectures to do with grouping and the set of conjectures to do with pausing, right? Okay, so that's basically where we are at, and I don't know how much further we're going to get right now, Mo. What do you
So I
think?
had I was thinking of another thing that happened with me some years back. Like I used to learn how to play the drums long back. So one thing that we had to do was make even sounds with both hands. That was very important. So there was also an exercise where you group right, right, left, left. Like you hit 2 times with your right hand and 2 times with your left. So if you have right, right, left, left, right, right, left, right, 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 left, left, and then they change it to right, left, left, right, right, left, left, right. So it's essentially the same. The pattern is the same, but if you just break it into a different group, it is completely like a different level. It's so challenging to do it. So it doesn't apply just, I think, doesn't apply just to speaking, but any exercise that groups it differently.
Yeah. Mo, you want to respond?
No, I think that insight is absolutely right. Yeah, we are actually right now investigating a certain property of the brain mind, and as far as I know, this particular puzzle that we're looking at, it hasn't been answered yet in the research literature. So we are looking at an actual research question. Of course, investigating it will take a lot of time.
So not something we can do right now. Yeah. But I think what Chintan has, through his example, we've kind of widened the scope of this. So this is not really to do with groupings just of words, but groupings of just generally.
Yeah.
Right?
Chintan is saying that tongue twisting and hand twisting
are
the same principles.
And what I also realized was, once you stop thinking about it, it doesn't matter. Like you get the same fluidity, but as soon as you start thinking about it, it just goes away. So it might be conscious that this is happening.
Okay, Sonnet says that pausing is what makes words into a group. Well, not necessarily. It depends what you mean by grouping. That's something which we would have to investigate further, whether pausing is an important aspect of that or not.
Yeah.
Right. Chintan's example of drums would be maybe a situation where pausing may not be like if there's no difference in the timing between these things. Yeah. Okay.
You can do an actual experiment by doing this. One is heavy, one is loud, the other is not loud, and you can use exactly the same patterns without pausing. See if it works.
Yep. So okay, great. So I don't think we're going to get too much further in this right now, but so before we move on to questions, and please start posting questions in the chat if you have any. But before we get to them, I want to tell you a bit about this online course, which I think is going to be starting mid-May. It's something we've been running since 2015. And we've had now, I don't know how many hundred people, like 600-700 people. I don't quote me on numbers, who've been part of the course over this period. And it's been a great experience for a learning experience for as much for the probably more for us than for the participants, and so we would love you guys to be a part of the course. The goal of the course, it's called Inquiry and Integration Education, is to develop in you the ability to think like mathematicians, scientists, philosophers, historians, and so on, and to develop in you certain mindsets to be able to, including things like rigorous reasoning, intellectual skepticism, intellectual humility, and things like that, which are valuable tools. And And the course starts mid-May and ends in mid-October. And you can click on the link. No, I don't think you can click on that link, but you can go to that link to find out more about the course, more details about the course. And yeah, so there is a fee associated with the course. However, the most important thing to us is that people are able to do the course no matter what their financial situation is. So if you can't afford it, you can pay what you can afford. So there's no don't think don't let not affording it come in the way at all of your taking this course. Okay, just in the application form itself, you can fill in what amount you can afford to pay. Okay. Okay. So before we get into questions, which I'm still waiting for, please ask questions, whoever's here. Chintan and Shamli, it would be great if you guys could IIE, why someone would find it valuable. Maybe let's start with Chintan, because you're the most recent. You were part of this last year's IIE. So
I think, I mean, not including Shamli, most of us have been educated in a system where we're supposed to remember information and just blurt it out in the exams. So that information, that knowledge is never ours. It always belongs to the textbook and it belongs to the exam papers. It's not knowledge that I'm actively engaged with. So I think what the IIE does is actively bringing that knowledge closer to you. So you become a participant in creating that knowledge rather than someone who's just remembering it. So I think what the IIE specifically does is they've broken down the tools of inquiry very well and very simply understood, very simply presented. So you can engage in this exercise of knowledge creation. And I don't think it matters whether you create the right knowledge or not. It doesn't matter whether your answers are correct or not. I think it's more important that you start thinking about it critically. And even if you don't create knowledge, if there is information presented to you, I think the IIE presents you tools to think about that information critically, which I think is very important. It has always been important, but I just think it's very important right now. So it was a great experience, and yeah, I would recommend and encourage everyone who wants to join it for sure. Maybe I'll do it again in some years. I just feel like I didn't get enough out of it, so maybe I'll come back and do it again.
Thanks, Chintan. Shamli?
Yeah. So I had a great time. The things I learned, the tools, as Chintan said, that I learned in the IIE course are things that I still use today. It's something long-lasting that stays with you forever. We learned to break down bigger concepts into smaller, very basic steps of premises, deriving things, having conclusions. And that doesn't only apply to the top. For example, we did science and math concepts in the course, but that applies to every aspect. For example, today we were doing language, linguistics, whatever. So these basic concepts apply everywhere, and it helps you think logically and think step by step. And I think that is something that stuck with me till now. I mean, for a long
time. Okay. Thanks a lot, Shamli. Mo, is there anything you want to add about IIE while we're waiting for questions?
Actually, I want to make a comment on what Shamli and Chintan said. Chintan mentioned in his response to the question on blue-green, Chintan mentioned tabla, or two hands, something like that. So initially, we began the blue-green with something called phonology, which is part of linguistics, sound systems. But then the moment Chintan mentioned the other thing, it moved from linguistics to cognitive science in general. Now, I don't think Chintan or Shamli has had exposure to either linguistics or cognitive science. And yet, even though they had, many of the audience actually may not have even heard about neurocognitive science or cognitive neuroscience. Yet, you were able to engage with these questions, even though you didn't know what the discipline was. And as I mentioned, that these problems have not been solved yet. So you are talking about research questions which have not been settled in a discipline that you don't even know exists. That's the important part, that the information that you have in a discipline doesn't matter. It's the thinking abilities that are important.
Yeah. So yeah, especially if it's a discipline which you're not specializing in. Then it's more. But it's still very important to be able to pick up things in that discipline, or not just in a discipline, but like reading a newspaper, etc. To be able to critically evaluate things that you come across. Okay. So we have a question. So Divyansh asks, how important is the method to the process of inquiry with regards to any field, but more specifically to fluid fields like philosophy? So let me suggest an interpretation of that question, which Divyansh, you can correct us if that's not what you mean. What does inquiry in fields like philosophy look like? How does inquiry in philosophy? What is inquiry in philosophy? Mo, you want to?
Well, there are two broad categories of philosophy. One is called analytic philosophy, and the other is called continental philosophy. The wordings are kind of somewhat hazy, it doesn't matter. Analytic philosophy is the use of logic and rigorous clarification of concepts, explicit articulation, and so on. So that can be used for conceptual inquiry to ask a question, what is knowledge, or what is justice, what is truth? But then exactly same method also can be used to ask questions like, what is a species? What is energy? What is number? What is a mammal? So that technique can be used for any discipline. Analytic philosophy also uses definitions to answer these questions, like what is knowledge? Analytic philosophy gives you an answer by defining it. But that is equally relevant for mathematics. It is relevant for physics, biology, again, every discipline. So what is important is some of these tools of philosophy are useful not only for philosophical inquiry within philosophy, but across the board, no matter what the subjects are. Mathematics uses reasoning to prove something. So does philosophy, so does physics, so does sociology, so does history, everything. So these tools are common across disciplinary boundaries. We might use a philosophy example by asking a question, what is knowledge? Or a biology example by asking a question, what's a species? But it's not the particular domain that matters, but what goes across these domains.
Okay. So Aditi in the comments asked us actually to clarify what tools of inquiry were used in today's exercise, and other examples of what we mean when we say tools of inquiry.
So we use pattern finding, was very clear in the first example, and then after looking at a pattern, we generalize it to the whole population, which is what we do in inductive reasoning. And then we test it. After coming up with an observation generalization, we test it with new examples. So we look for counterexamples. And finally, if you do not find a single counterexample after looking at lots and lots of data, you say, okay, we must be on the right track. So the generalization that we came up with was double letters. But we don't know if it is actually true, because who knows? Yeah. After looking at 1,000 examples, you might find one with double letters which I dislike, or one with no double letters which I like. You can't tell, right? So it's a tentative conclusion. And that is the case in science. All conclusions in science are tentative. So that's what the first example illustrates. Second example is a little more complex. It did use these pattern finding and testing and so on, but we're also postulating things which are not obvious in the data. So people said grouping. Grouping is not obvious in the data. We are postulating something. So then we are moving from observational inquiry to theoretical inquiry. Now, we didn't have that time to go through that. If we had done this for about an hour or two, we might have learned more about those things. To continue with that process, we will require a huge bunch of tools that are required in inquiry. But we couldn't go any further.
Okay, great. So I actually have a question for Chintan to start with, which is, so last year, Chintan, during IIE, you had to organize a lot of meetings and so on amongst participants and stuff like that, and that's something which kind of we never talk about when we talk about IIE, the sort of interactions between participants, the way you guys, way participants learn from each other. That's not something which we talk about when we, like, say, have these things where we're trying to get people to sign up for the course. I think that might be a valuable thing, Chintan, if you could talk about your interaction, what you learned from other people, and what those interactions were like.
Yeah, sure. So I think when I was talking to Shamli about the course and other people, what I realized was pre-COVID times, during the course, there were meetings that were generally organized between people of the same region. So people in Delhi would come together, people in Bangalore would come together. But since we were during the COVID times, this was not happening. So the idea was to extend that that format of people meeting together and talking about things, because we already had a discussion forum that was going on email. But the problem, I think one of the problems is, I mean, it's an advantage that people can reply whenever they are comfortable with it and take the time with it. But also, it's never a discussion. Like, you write something and then you get a response a day after, and then you start thinking about it again. So it's not, it doesn't happen that fluidly. So I thought maybe it would be a better experience to get with some people together on Zoom and talk about the questions that we have in the document. So one of the good things, again, is that the document has a certain set of questions, so we don't have to make up our own. And we just used that questions and we talked about it. And what was very interesting for me was the diverse set of people that I got to meet from across the country. There were educators, there were parents, there was someone like me who had no idea what he was doing. And so we were just not only talking about the document or things that confuse us or the quiz, but we also talked about how things are at home and what are the challenges that they are facing. And so it was very useful to create such a community. And I think I've always realized that the more people there are in discussion, the more things you come to know, the things you've never thought of. So it was very beneficial.
Great, thanks. Shamli, it might be useful also if you talk about, like, the sort of people that you've met, the people you now are interacting with regularly and stuff like that, which might be a useful thing for people who are thinking about signing up for the course to learn about the value of that. Sorry.
Yeah. So you get to, through the course, you get to meet a group of people who have also obviously been through the course. So the type of conversations that you have are very interesting, because we both sides of the conversation have this mindset of thinking of how we are going through logically in trying to explain something. I think we have very interesting conversations, and that was amazing. I got a group of people who, some people who are, as Chintan said, a very diverse set of people, but all who, since we've gone through this course, have a similar way of thinking about all different sorts of topics.
Yeah, I guess, sharing some set of some value system in common, which So I think that's a very useful thing for people to know when they're signing up for the course, that it's not just like an online course which you, like, watch some videos on Coursera and then you maybe have a few back and forths in some forum on the website and so on. There's actually a community that gets created each year, and we're trying to where you get to know people with a similar value system and stuff like that. And so there's something more to this course than involved in this course than other courses you may encounter. Okay. Since we don't have any more questions, which I think we should have foreseen, given this what the session which happened today, because it's not really a session which has questions associated with it. But Mo, do you want to?
Yeah, I would like to use this opportunity to ask Shamli and Chintan an important question. You see, our focus has never been helping people to do well in exams. That has not been a priority for us. Our priority has been to help people learn what is of value to them after the exams in their real life. So thinking abilities, integrating abilities, communicative abilities, etc., logic and so on. These are things which are of value to people after they get a job, they say in their professional life, in their private life, in their personal, and for many people in their research. Now, what do you think would be, is this course useful also for exam performance? Do you think you have become better at getting higher marks? Whether or not it is of importance to you is not the question that I'm asking. Maybe Shamli would say, no, I don't care about getting marks. That's not the question. But will this, if you wanted to get more marks, do you think this has some consequence to that goal? I have no clue. Because
actually Shamli might be a good person, given that she's just doing her 12th board exams or whatever.
Yeah. I think that really depends on what board you do. For example, most of my friends do the NIOS board, which has absolutely nothing to do with your brain. You just memorize what's in the textbook and exact word to word copy the answers, and that's your exam. But I do Cambridge board. And when they ask me a question in the exam, that's a question I've never encountered before in my whole syllabus. They ask those types of questions. And I think this course has definitely helped, because when I'm trying to explain what I'm thinking, trying to explain an answer to a question, it helps to be able to break that down into very simple parts and logically follow through to my conclusion at the end.
Okay.
So I would say it depends on what board you are.
So what you're saying is that if your exam is like remembering telephone directories,
yeah,
then
exactly.
It doesn't help
then absolutely not.
I think I would say that regardless of the board, if it depends on how you engage with that information, and if you have someone who can help you with it. So even if you are doing an NIOS board or a CBSE board, although the things that you have to do is memorize, but if you are taken through that process, through understanding and building up that knowledge, you will remember it better just naturally. So you will do better in your exam. So if you have a facilitator and you have that kind of access, maybe even self-learning through, I mean, the internet is a huge place to understand things better now. And the AI also helps you with, going through this vast amount of information and deciding what is best for you. So even if you go through that process, I think you will remember it better.
Okay.
At least.
Okay, so let's, there's one question and we can end with that, which is, Divyans asked, what's the importance of transdisciplinary thought in today's day and age? That's a theme which I saw emerging in today's showcase. Mo.
Transdisciplinarity has two aspects. One is transdisciplinary concepts. So to give you an example, if you learn about the structure of atoms, that comes under physics. If you learn about the structure of molecules, that comes under chemistry. If you talk about the structure of cells, that comes under biology. Or the structure of a skeleton, that's also biology. But two different domains about two different disciplines of biology, cellular biology versus organismic biology. If you're talking about a structure of a poem, that comes under literary studies. If you're talking about the structure of a sentence, that comes under linguistics. But now you step back from these particular disciplinary characteristics and ask the question, what is structure? Try to understand the concept of structure. That doesn't belong to any discipline, but on the other hand, has relevance to every discipline. Even the structure of a dance, for example, choreography, right? So by understanding these concepts and connecting these abstract transdisciplinary constructs to particular disciplines, it becomes much easier for you to learn a new discipline because you already have the foundations. The same thing applies to other concepts like function in biology, function in cognitive science, and a whole bunch of various other things. Organization, system. System is not of any particular discipline, but applies to all disciplines. Evolution, history. The same way, just as transdisciplinary concepts are important for learning any discipline, transdisciplinary abilities are also important. So the ability to detect a logical contradiction is extremely important in mathematics, but it is also important in science, physical sciences, biological sciences, human sciences, philosophy, everywhere. Logical contradiction is important. The concept of logical contradiction and the ability to detect them. The concept of definition and the ability to come up with and evaluate definitions. Again, it applies across disciplines. So these are the things that we focus on. The kinds of things which are of value in all disciplines, every discipline, and will be of value to you later after your exams. So yes, transdisciplinarity is one of the foundations of the entire program that Think is offering.
Okay, I think that's a good place to end. Thanks a lot, Shamli, Chintan, for joining us. Thanks, Mo. And hopefully we'll see some of you in the course, some people who wrote responses in the chat and others who are just watching. And thanks again. See you.
Thank you.
Thank you.